Hey everyone, happy Friday. Happy Friday. You made it through another week. Almost. So, welcome. I invite any questions that people may have. I've got some current events to talk about today. I'm going to talk about in the LA Times, actually, yesterday's LA Times, because I didn't get today's for some reason. So, anyhow, and I know many of you probably don't even get the paper; you read it all online. So I still like the feel of the paper, and I still read the online about 4 or 5 different papers. Although yesterday, just this as an aside, I did not read. I usually check CNN and Fox News, BBC, and Haaretz, which is the Israeli paper, just to get multiple perspectives on the news, in addition to the LA Times, because it is interesting to see who reports what and how they report what they report with the same events. It really varies. But I realized that it was really getting me down. It was really getting me down. And so I just took a break from checking that. No news yesterday. And I have to say, hey, Ruth, you still get the paper? Awesome. I have to say, my mood yesterday was even Steven all day long. And usually I get fatigued by like 3 o'clock. And I mean, a lot of times it's my schedule. I have one coaching session after another. But oftentimes I'll check, throughout the day, I'll check the news and all that. Oh my gosh, my energy level was just, amazing yesterday. And today, so far, it's been pretty good too. So I have not been looking at any of the politics or anything like that. Oh my gosh. Anyhow, but I do love the business page, and so there's a few things going on. And it's helpful because if you are a job seeker right now, if you've been laid off, then staying on top of what's going on in the marketplace is important, because even with the economy the way it is now, there's still opportunity. There's still opportunity. And so whether you're in business for yourself, or whether you're thinking about going into business for yourself, or whether you're just trying to get another job, or whether you're a leader who's managing a team right now, there's always something you can incorporate. So, for example, if you're a leader, or an employee for that matter, there's a lawsuit right now at PIMCO. PIMCO is the multi-billion-dollar company. It's a Pacific Investment Management company. They basically help people with their investments for retirement funds and stuff like that, but they sell bonds and they do all kinds of stuff. And they basically, the article says there's a culture there that denigrates women, that discriminates against women, and that they basically allegedly have a fraternity culture, and where the men, typically white males, are paid substantially more than women, and they have outings like golf outings, strip club outings. Believe it or not, in this day and age, that still happens with many companies. And so the women are feeling left out and feeling, rightfully so, in my view, not on level ground. And so it would be interesting to see how this lawsuit plays out. I mean, it's just something that has been filed recently, and it talks about how white males are disproportionately represented as well. So they get into the diversity as well, not just with women, but also other minorities and whatnot to have more diversity. So stay tuned for that. And you know, one of the things, I'll just speak from having been in the corporate world for many years, including, you know, Fortune 500 companies like PIMCO, and that is that diversity in just about any respect, not just the color of your skin, not just your sexual orientation, not just your personality style, right? Those are all, right? Those are all different forms of diversity, upbringing or geography. They all ultimately can really strengthen a team's overall performance and agility, particularly when there's these crazy times. And it helps to avoid something called groupthink as well. And what groupthink is when you have a group of people who are kind of homogenous, and it's not that they just all look alike, but maybe they all come from a similar school. Like, you know, some companies like to hire people that are from certain schools. And so there's a paradigm that comes with that, the way that people are taught and conditioned and trained. And it opens up some vulnerabilities, you know, with as dynamic as the environment is, as dynamic as the marketplace is. The more diversity you have, generally will be better in the long run. Now, it could end up like this. So a lot of times I was brought in because there was a lot of conflict because of the differences, kind of people working against each other instead of being, you know, aligned with each other. So one of the things I used, like if one of the tools like the DISC assessment, there's other assessments I would also use, occasionally Myers-Briggs type indicator. But those are things that can get at different styles. And how do we value the different styles, the different contributions that people bring, the different perspectives? And so when we can better understand what those differences are, then we can appreciate what they can bring to us in the workplace to create a winning environment for all. So in terms of opportunity, maybe I should contact PIMCO and see if they could use my help. They're in my backyard. And I've worked with a lot of toxic atmospheres. So I'm going to put that on my list. Anyhow, the 737 MAX has gotten the okay to return. It's been the most studied plane in the history of the airline industry. And you heard about the crashes that occurred, and it's been a couple of years now. There's a Lion Air crash that occurred, and then another one as well. So they basically have reconfigured the software so that the nose doesn't autocorrect and shift down, because that's what was happening. If the plane was maybe ascending at a pitch that was maybe a little too high, the software would just kind of force the nose down. And to my understanding, and it threw off a lot of pilots and created some problems. So with COVID now, it's not, I mean, there's not much they can do. There's not much flying going on right now. There's some, obviously, but there's not a whole lot. So this was like an 18-month investigation. And the House Transportation Committee, it says they heaped a lot of blame on Boeing and a culture of concealment. A culture of concealment. So kind of another theme, right? How culture can really impact the success of an organization. What else? The housing market is soaring in Southern California due to low interest rates. Probably no surprise. The median price is $605,000 now. Holy cow. That's incredible. One of the other things, a couple other things, PG&E and Facebook. I want to talk about them. PG&E, it's another culture. That's the theme for today. Culture matters. Culture, Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? The culture of an organization is what is culture? Culture is the attitudes and beliefs. What's acceptable here? It's this kind of a psychological. Their practices. So, like if you're an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist, what do you observe in terms of how people interact with each other, or aren't interacting with each other? What do you see that's valued? Like aesthetically, what do you see? You see a lot of monuments. Do you see kind of a lot of ritz and glamour, or is it more kind of basic stuff, right? So you get a sense of what are the values, what's accepted, and those types of things. So with the culture at PG&E, they've had a lot of safety issues over the years, and they've completely lost the trust of the customers in the Bay Area. So San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento, kind of up there. And so, although Sacramento's not the Bay Area, but Northern California. So these are some things that in the culture, they had a culture of where it wasn't okay people didn't feel safe to speak up, or if they did speak up, it was ignored, or there was a culture of cutting corners. And so, and I have colleagues that work there. I used to work in the industry at a different utility, and there's a lot of good people that work there as individuals, but the collective culture hasn't really worked well. And so it all stems from, and this article is saying, from the leadership. And so they're bringing in this new CEO. Her name's Patricia Poppe. I think it's pronounced Pop, Poppe. Could be Pope, but I think it's Pop. And she was part of another utility in Michigan and ran that. And before that, 15 years at General Motors. So they're hoping that she can shift the culture. She'll be their fourth CEO in 2 years. Fourth CEO in 2 years. So she has some other industry experience as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with changing that culture. And then lastly, you have Facebook. Facebook has these content moderators to kind of evaluate content and see what's appropriate. So, the work itself is kind of toxic because there's a lot of negative stuff or hate, posts that are like, not hate mail, but, kind of things like that, child pornography, things like that, right? So they're the ones that screen all this stuff. And I mean, they have software that automates some of it, but they need actual live eyeballs to cover the gaps that technology isn't able to, or falsely maybe identifies something as, against their policy when it's really okay, or, vice versa. Maybe it doesn't catch something. So they have these, so they have these algorithms there. And so what they're demanding is that they be compensated extra for showing up. They have to show up at the office. They can't do this at home, apparently. So they need to show up at the office, and they're reviewing a lot of violent, abusive content so that they can remove it. What else? And many of these workers have been outsourced, but what else is it saying here? Well, yeah. They're wanting hazard pay, and they want safer conditions for COVID-19, right? Since they have to come into the office. So that's an example where they are speaking up. They're kind of demanding on some change there. So what's the lesson today? There's a few things. One is culture matters. Culture matters. Number two is, if you don't like the culture, you have a couple options. You can work to change it, and you have more influence as a leader, but also if you're an employee, you can band together with others and work towards changing that, kind of a bubble up approach. The third, you can choose to leave it or not join it all to begin with. So it's really important to research that and get a sense. And with my coaching, on the career coaching side of things, I work with clients on how can they identify a company's culture. You can't just go by what it's kind of the glamour, what it's known for. Well, how can you identify a company's culture so you can determine if it's a fit for you? Because what might be dysfunctional or toxic for you, for me, might be fine. I might not be affected in the same way, and vice versa. So you have to find what's going to work for you, right? In terms of that fit. Just like you might want to have a good fit with a job, you want to have a good fit with the company too. If you're a leader, the way that you lead has kind of a trickle-down effect, a cascade. You cast a shadow. So you have a disproportionate impact on the culture of the organization by virtue of your role in the organization. The decisions you make, the behaviors you model or don't model, right? All of those things send strong messages to the workforce on what's acceptable and what's not. And what's acceptable and what's not is a big cornerstone of what a company culture is. So some food for thought on this Friday. I will be on next Tuesday. I'm going to be talking about influence. That's part of my leadership, high-performing leadership series. This is the third series now that I'm offering. We had our first topic last week. And so next week on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific will be the next one. So tune in for that. And I'll also be on next Friday. I'm hoping to have some interviews lined up. I have several people that said, yeah, I would love to be interviewed. And then it gets. So everyone is stretched out pretty thin. So you have to put up with me on some of these Fridays here. And hopefully next time we'll have some questions. I'll mix up the format. You submit them ahead of time and I'll just answer them live. I mean, that's fine. You don't have to be on this live. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. I will be off. Actually, I misspoke. Next Tuesday and next Friday, I will not be broadcasting. If I do broadcast next week, it'll just be like an impromptu, so I may do that. But I am taking next week off, just to recharge, and I may do a little bit of work, but I have 0 meetings next week, and 0 coaching sessions, 0. I mean, it's just a way to disconnect, and I'll probably be focusing next week on just more creative stuff, and maybe starting to outline my next book, because I've had the itch. I really don't have the time to start writing a book right now, but I have that itch to start kind of laying out the big picture for the book. And I already have covers. I already have mock covers for my next three books that I have on my vision board. So anyhow, that's what I've got. For better, for worse. And thanks for dropping in, Ruth. Good to see you. And you have a good Thanksgiving as well. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.